Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 10th of November. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by a double team of Joshua Barry and Chris Jack. Joshua, how goes it, first of all?
Goes fine. A routine. We've not had many headlines with Rangers Sunday stroll in it. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, long may that continue. Chris Jack also joins us. How goes it, Chris? You hot-footed it down from Dens last night. Did you enjoy your Sunday afternoon?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to be honest. I travelled up there with fairly low expectations of what Rangers could produce. But as Joshua said, they are fairly straightforward, and a straightforward Sunday hopefully makes for a straightforward Monday.
Yeah, let's hope so. Right, a quick word for our podcast sponsors before we dive into all the Rangers news, of course. Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing trade. No job is too big or too small for these guys. They offer free consultations, and you also get 10% off when you use the code Rangers Review over on their website, which is willows-fencing.com. So do go and check them out. Right, Rangers recorded a third successive league win under Danny Rohl, and things moving along nicely under him, certainly in the league, that's for sure. Rangers racing into a 2-goal lead at Dens yesterday. Nico Raskin from a James Tavernier corner, fantastic leap in the air, bulleting a header past the goalkeeper. He's so good at that. Mikey Moore, who has come onto a game, and we'll discuss him in some detail on today's show, firing home his first Rangers goal since joining in the summer. Well taken, right-footed strike just from the edge of the area into the corner. He thought he doubled his goal tally for the day, only for his goal to be ruled out for an offside after a lengthy VAR check. Mohamed Diamandi in the line of vision of the Dundee goalkeeper, despite making the save. Rangers and Danny Rohl made 3 changes at half-time, and the pace and the tempo dropped somewhat, but Jedi Gassama added a thirdly on with a fantastic curling effort to round things off. Joshua, as Chris said there, as we've touched on there, a Sunday stroll. Rangers need more of these sort of routine victories. Second half was a bit more disjointed, but I don't think Rangers were any real danger of losing grip of the game at any point. I think the changes may have, and we'll discuss it, the changes at some point as well, may have been a reason for that. But no real complaints from yesterday. All Danny Rohl can do is win the games that are in front of him. And in terms of the league, he's done what is asked of him.
Yeah, he has, and obviously he's not won in Europe, and the Old Firm was a stretch too far. But I think, as Chris and I discussed after the game yesterday, it's baby steps in the league, isn't it? This is a team who'd won one league game in 7, and that needs to be remembered, because 3 games on the trot in the league is not bad at all. It was routine. It wasn't great in the second half. We had a comment yesterday that also, I think, reminded everyone that the state of the game can impact these things. I think that goal should stand, Derek. Don't think he'll be alone in that today to make it 3-0. Yeah. And if that goes 3-0, Rangers probably merited that. And then maybe they go on and get their 4th and their 5th. I think that the level did drop off a bit after the substitutions. Danny Rohl makes a lot of halftime subs. He wants to keep the tempo up, especially off the ball, and keep legs fresh. But all in, 3-0 away from home and a clean sheet. That has not happened. Rangers haven't done that in months and months and months. So starting from a low bar, but because of that low bar, I think you need to give them credit for turning fortunes a bit domestically. And listen, there's 2 very winnable home fixtures next against Livingston and Falkirk. Falkirk are in good form, but Rangers would hope to win that game at home. And also, maybe, as we'll come on to discuss, you're seeing him tweak and change things quite often. And he said that at the start of his tenure, that he wouldn't be held to one shape and his team would try and play the same way, but with slight modifications from game to game. It wasn't a back 3, it was a back 4, an extra attacking player up the pitch. And the way that, he said in his pre-match interview, he said, we expect Dundee to sit in a low block. And the way that Rangers were actually able to unsettle that's been the most positive thing for me over Danny Rohl's early start there, that we're not just seeing a side who can press and win the ball ball out of possession, but actually we're seeing Rangers set the tempo in possession in a way that, while not spectacular, we've not seen them do consistently in a long, long time domestically.
Yep. Absolutely. Very big thank you to Chris, who's very kindly donated to the channel. He says, as good as yesterday's result was, the lack of goals from our 3 strikers is extremely worrying, in my opinion. We'll get to that, Chris, that's for sure. But Mikey Moore, one of the standouts yesterday, Chris. Danny Rohl's certainly getting a tune at this boy. We're starting to see just what he is all about. I thought that was probably arguably his best game in a Rangers jersey yesterday.
I think so. Unfortunate, I think, to get that second goal chopped off. I think on his first half performance, he merited that second one. And as I said to Josh on the show last night, it was actually a really good finish from a tight angle. He's taken it well. Took his first one well, and ball breaks. It's a good finish from the edge of the area. So a lot to like about his performance yesterday. I think a lot to like about how he's influenced or looked to influence games over the last couple of weeks. He spoke in the mix zone on Thursday about being a bit more happy with his overall game, his overall levels, but he knew that he had to start adding numbers. He needed goals, he needed assists. I think you saw in his celebration yesterday, he was rightly chuffed to finally get off the mark, and hopefully it's the first of many more to come. Because as Chris the comment said there, you're not getting a lot of goals from your number 9s right now, and if you're not, you need goals to come from other areas, and that's going to put a bit of pressure on the likes of Mikey Moore, likes of Gassama to chip in. So I think the way that forward line is shaping up just now, it looks like it could get the best out of Mikey Moore. I think the shape works for him, and hopefully we can see him really go from strength to strength over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, is it as simple as Malt Whiskey's comment here, Joshua? Do you reckon that he's just been playing in a more favourable position, that Danny Rohl is getting the best out of him so far?
I think it's more positions rather than position, because he's the shape's changed, hasn't it? So he didn't really have a wing back outside of him yesterday, but James Tavernier was wide, and then Bojan Miovski, while he didn't really get in the game, I think his role to a degree was to try and just stretch the Dundee defence in that first half. And if you look at, I've got a couple of pass maps to try and illustrate this point, Derek, but if you look at what Mikey Moore's good at, he's probably not at his best when he's wide, isolated to the touchline, because he's not explosively fast. So, he probably wants to chop in on his right foot. But if you look at the goal he scores yesterday, what he does really well is he moves into that little space. He's standing on the Dundee centre-back who doesn't track him because they want to stay in shape. Plays a couple of nice passes, then gets the ball facing play. And I think when you maybe play him around players who want to stretch the pitch or run beyond, and give him the license to have a little bit more freedom in the centre of the park, it reminded me a little bit of the role you'd sometimes see created for Ryan Kent. Where on one side of the pitch, the difference being one side of the pitch, you had Gassama, who was stretching it and who was quite predictable in his position and deliberately, and you saw the benefit of that late on when Rangers get the ball to him at the right time. Jane Magoma overlaps him at the right time, and then he can chop inside and score that goal. That I think he can score that goal just about every game if the environment is created for him. And with Mikey Moore, do you remember the game? It was Falkirk away, Russell Martin's last game, of course, and Mikey Moore started that game. I think he came off at half-time. This is his pass network on the day, and what people can see on the screen is his dribbles and his passes. Red is where it was successful, yellow unsuccessful. And he was playing on the right, Derek, but he was really playing on the right. A lot of isolated running, a lot of taking the team up the pitch. And because he was on his right and making kind of bigger distance runs, it was harder for him to protect the ball, so he lost it quite a lot. And he was quite predictable in his positioning. But if we look at yesterday, you can see a difference because he comes off the touchline a lot in the final third, doesn't he? He's more involved in the left. He's dropping a little bit deeper. So he's still on the right at points, but then he's not isolated in an area where I would argue he's not at his strongest, because he's not a right winger who's going to hit the byline with pace and power and maybe advance play in that way. So you can see in comparison to those two pass maps, he's playing on the right in both those games, but if you create a better environment around him that suits him a little bit more, you're going to get a better performance. And I think that's what you've seen Danny Rohl tried to do right across the board. Again, Chris and I said this yesterday. Instead of trying to maybe fit players into an overall idea, he's compromising a bit to work out, well, what are these players' strengths? How can I, game to game, tailor that? And so far in the league, that's worked for him.
Yeah, and long may that continue. I was impressed with him yesterday. Took his goal really well. Incidentally, on the second, Neil raising the point says the chopped off goal was ridiculous. The commentator was calling it subjective. The keeper had a clear line of sight as he got down, no problem to stop the ball. As soon as, never really celebrated it as such. I knew as soon as they were going to check it that they would find some reason to disallow the goal, and they did in the end after a lengthy old check. I've got to say, if it was, I know it was Diamandi in the line of sight of the goalkeeper, if it was on at the other end of the pitch, I think Rangers fans would be asking for that to be chopped off as well. But I can get why some are saying it's a bit ridiculous on-field review for an offside. But there you go. It didn't have a real material effect on the outcome of the game yesterday. And as Davester quite rightly says, nice to be talking positively about the football. Absolutely. So plenty to get our teeth stuck into today on that in a positive sense. Homer with the point says, just on Moore, I think taking Moore off was the wrong decision. Of course, Ant-Man came on for him. Joshua, were you surprised to see 3 changes at the break? Not a big fan of that, I've got to say. I would like Danny Rohl to have kept the status quo. Now, I get, as Chris touched on, the strikers aren't firing at this moment in time. Bojan Miovski has been poor. Yusuf Chermiti had a howler before the game started by posting on his Instagram saying that he was playing Dundee United. He came on and, again, just looked so off it. It's unreal. But yeah, that is a concern at the striker situation. But I just don't get why. I get that everyone's happy with the win, but 3 changes at halftime, is that necessary?
Is it necessary? Well, I agree with the comment. It's good to be picking bones out of a 3-0 defeat, 3-0 win, rather than where did it all go wrong as usual. And on Yusuf Chermiti, it's probably not him making that Instagram post, so I'm sure he's had a quiet word with whoever.
Somebody at the club, somebody at the club should have went, here, mate. Going to tell whoever it is that's posting that, get it down, because you look like a dumpling.
Yeah, the small things don't help when you're not scoring goals. I agree. Speaking to a couple of people for a piece we're working on about working with Danny Rohl, what he's like as a manager, and it's come up a few times that he does make a lot of quite aggressive substitutions at the break, and brave decisions was the way it was described to me. And you saw that even in a couple of his early games where he made alterations at the break. I'd always rather have a manager and rather see a manager be proactive rather than reactive. And I think that's happened way too much. Even going back to that Falkirk game under Russell Martin's final game, I think too many changes in recent years at Rangers have been reacting when it's too late, reacting when the opposition get back into it. Maybe it was about freshness. Maybe it was actually just about trying to get the likes of Tello Asgard and even Oliver Antman when he came on involved in it, and maybe them having a better afternoon. But I think taking Danilo off actually didn't help Rangers, because he's the one who's linking a lot of these attacks at the moment and is creating quite a lot. And Asgard does create he plays the pass to Gassam, but he's still not quite clicking, not quite doing it in the way that Danilo, while not 8 out of 10, I think is linking play quite nicely. So yeah, I was surprised. The striking position, again, we're going to have a more of a look at it over the course of the international break. But it is a concern because the goals that Rangers have lost in that department have nowhere near been replicated. I think Chris is at 6 or 7 goals that Rangers 3 strikers have scored so far this season.
It was 6 last week, and none of them scored at the weekend, so I'm assuming it's still 6.
Yeah, still 6.
Off the top of my head, a couple for Danilo, obviously. We know the Chermiti one, and Miovski's got his 2. Actually, on the subs, I think Miovski was probably I'm not saying he had a great first half and he deserved to stay on the pitch, but given that Rangers were so dominant in the game, I was expecting them to come out and really try and keep the foot down in that second half. Now it didn't happen, and they kind of coasted through it. A Dundee goal with 20 minutes to go would have made life very, very interesting for those on the park and those of us in the press box who had already committed to a Rangers victory in their intros. But I think I expected Rangers to be a bit more at it in the second half, and it felt like an afternoon where there was more goals in it for them. So if that's the case, I'd have kept Miovski on. He looks like a guy that needs a couple of chances to have a couple of attempts on goal, maybe even get himself a goal. The same could be said of Shamiti, but he's had more minutes of late. So I think if you're going to make the changes, understand it. You want to try and freshen it up, and you want to try and keep people on their toes. But I'm not sure a half-time hooking does much for Bojan Miovski right now, who needs minutes, needs goals, and needs performances. So that's the one I would probably question the most.
Just on the subs as well, Derek, I wonder if it's a case of Dundee changed. They went to a more aggressive setup. So I wonder if Danny Rohl thought, I need to be more direct, which is why I'm bringing on Asgard and Shamiti. It didn't really play out like that.
At half-time, Joshua, he's speaking for the large majority of that, speaking to the players. I think it was always in the pipeline he was going to make.
Yeah, maybe.
I just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is my feeling on that one. But as Colin rightly points out, you need to trust the head coach, Derek. He's seen things that none of us really can. But I'd say the comments coming in saying that there was a drop-off, and I think that was largely part to the change in personnel as well. So just on Chermiti as well, I mean, yeah, he was getting caught offside. His touch was heavy. There's a couple of times he tried to chest it down and it just bounced off his chest. Last season, if that's Hamza Igaman, it's instant control. I don't think he's justifying being part of the squad, Joshua, never mind coming on. I don't see what he's contributing.
Yeah, throw me an easy one there. I think. So what's Rangers' recent fixtures been? Before Roma, it was the Old Firm, and before that, it was Hibs away. So I think Hibs away, for me, Hibs away, he was fine. He was a 6 out of 10. Rusty at points, yeah, but his touch was better than last night. I'm not saying he prizes open the Hibs defence to create that chance for Danilo, but I thought he was a bit more involved. The concern is across the board that I think Miovski, and again, we'll look at this in more detail over the break. I think Miovski is a striker who will be great when he's got chances laid on for him, but maybe isn't going to generate those chances himself. So even Derek in the final moments of the Roma game where he tries to drop and play that pass to James Tavernier and actually invites pressure in Roma, create a corner, game's dead by that point. I don't really think that's his game with his back to goal. And the reason that Chermiti has played is because he is more of a physical presence, although he doesn't win, I would say, enough flick-ons yet, or close to that. But that gives a more direct kind of route over the press at the moment. But the issue Rangers have is they don't have a clear upgrade in that striking position. We spoke about it, Blair and I, in the Saturday show this week on the topic of recruitment, taking a bit of a deeper dive into that. And Yusuf Chermiti, what he probably needs, price tag aside, because this conversation rightly is always going to be framed by the price tag, but that's not his fault. What he probably needs is a more experienced striker who knows the league in Miovski to score the 20-25 goals this season, and Chermiti scores 10 or 15. But the issue is Miovski isn't doing that, and you can't really justify a second place role for that fee. So until Rangers don't have a problem up top, Derek, I think they do at the moment, and that puts pressure on goals coming from elsewhere, because if you have a striker who can finish half chances now and again, or is going to pop in with the 29 that Desser's got in all competitions, I don't always like that stat because 3 were against Fraserburgh and 5 were after the split. But nonetheless, the goals
I don't care. See that? I'm not buying that after the split stuff. He still scored the goals.
Yeah, but okay, fair enough. We can agree to disagree. But
you buying that, Chris? Do they mean less?
I think it's always important to look at when goals are scored. As if you're scoring numbers 3 and 4 in a comfortable Ibrox victory, yes, you're still scoring goals. But if you're scoring the only one in a 1-0 win at Parkhead or Pittodrie or Easter Road, then they have a bit more of a meaning. But ultimately, come the end of the season, you're judged on the number of goals that you scored. Desser's last couple of seasons has scored a certain level of goal. These two that we've got just now, will they match that between them this season? Would you back Miovski and Chermiti to get 25 between them? Probably not right now. So that's a big issue. Danny Doyle was actually asked about that post-match yesterday. is this a team that needs a number 9? And he wasn't going to come out and say, yes, I can't wait until January to get one of these guys out on loan so I can go and spend some of Andrew Kavanagh's money. But I think it's evident that if you could sign one player or a player for one area of this side to make a big difference, it is that number 9 role, because you're putting, as I said earlier on, you're putting an awful lot of pressure on the likes of Moore, likes of Gassama, to go and chip in, and we're not seeing enough from you. You can almost get away with it if your backup is really good. We've seen that in previous seasons with Tav chipping in with huge numbers, but you're not saying, well, you're going to get 7 or 8 out of Diomandi, you'll get 7 or 8 out of Asgard, you'll get 7 or 8 out of Ant-Man. Again, they're not chipping in either. So it's a side that just looks short of goals, and the fear is that one day that catches up with you.
Yeah, not enough goals being scored by the guys that should be scoring goals. I'd be sending Chermiti away. I'd be phoning up Jermaine Defoe and asking if he can live with him for about a fortnight, and just get him on the training pitch and tell him how to be a striker, and hopefully he can get through to him. That's what I would be doing if I was in charge. Good. I was sure you were going to say. I was sure you were going to say. I'd got on the phone to Jermaine Defoe, see if he's still got a pair of boots and if he's a contract there. I was sure that's where that was going. Yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat right now, even in his condition. I think he would do the business. Good to have Kevin Thirlwell on the chat, as well as Alias. Scottish Campbell says that Rohl clearly been working on the team 25-8. Yeah, absolutely has been. Chris mentioned Gassama there, Joshua. He's been... I think he's been slightly off the boil of late. It looked like he was going to be hooked yesterday, but he popped up with one of those trademark cutting inside, curling efforts into the corner. That's more like it from him, isn't it?
Yeah, well, on Rohl, again, on that, those conversations I was having with a couple of people who'd worked with him, there was a story I was told of when he was basically like the club secretary at points at Sheffield Wednesday, and he was booking hotels, and he was having to justify, you'll know this being down south there, but he was having to justify when a hotel needed to be booked for an away game. Yeah, and there was one set of fixtures where the time, there was such a time limit between the games that he'd stayed up all night at the training ground, and when this guy came back the next day, there was Danny Rohl still on his laptop preparing the game. So I think that if anything counts as 25-8, although I'm begrudged to use that phrase, in that 25-8. But on Gassam, like this again, we were talking about this at the weekend. Play him in one position. You know, if your recruitment's right, you don't need to play him on the right. You don't need to play him at right wing back because you've not accounted for that. And Blair and I were speaking about this on Saturday, that if you can get Gassam into that position 3 times a game, he's probably, I would argue in the league, he's going to score you, I think, 15 goals across the course of a season. And generally for the minutes he's played on the left in a pretty bad team with new relationships all around him, he scored a fair amount of goals, and I think he's done pretty well. I just think there's a lot to be said for trying to develop a player in one position with, as I say, players around him who he knows. Magoma making that run yesterday. It's all these small details and the timing of it. Asgard playing it forward to him instead of taking a bad touch and playing it sidewards, and then Gassam's on the back foot. All those small details make a difference, but for me, you will see a much better Gassam if you keep him in one rough position instead of, can you play here this week and here this week and here this week? Because he was very close a couple of times to getting a goal in the Old Firm, and he wins a penalty. But I don't think he is helped by having to plug the gaps of everyone else elsewhere. And that's why recruitment is a knock-on effect, because I think that right-sided position is Mikey Moore's for the moment, but it's taken Rangers until November really to find a solution. And that shouldn't have been the case when they've spent a fair amount of money in that position. Yeah.
An interesting point I wanted to bring up from the opening goal, Nico Raskin, great leap and great header. Had someone message me yesterday about it as well, and Rab gets in touch. What was Raskin's celebration all about yesterday? Sort of just pointed towards his ears. I think that for me, looking at it, I thought he was sort of trying to just shut up the noise from the Dundee fans. That's the way I was looking at it at the time. Nothing any deeper than that. Though actually, just didn't bother me a great deal. But Chris, your thoughts on it?
I didn't actually see it at the time. I saw it mentioned on social media and saw a bit of a furore, maybe too strong a word about it. I think it comes in the back of the Shamiti one at Ibrox that Danny Rohl was actually asked about, and he said he had a quiet word in Shamiti's ear about it. I think Asgard at Ibrox against Dundee United as well. Arabi's in a better mood today, but let's big picture stuff. Rangers have still been terrible this season, and their situation is nowhere near acceptable, and is nowhere near good enough. So yes, it's nice to be in a bit more of a positive frame of mind, but I think the squad as a whole should have a bit of an understanding about where they are, and even if you are trying to quiet Dundee fans, don't do anything that can be misconstrued. You saw at the end of the game the bond that the manager is trying to forge with the fans, and I think they've really bought into it. They seem to really like him. They've taken to him. He doesn't need the players doing anything that's going to upset that with goal celebration. So I think it was wise to have that word with Shamiti the other day there. I'm sure he'll mention it again to the players just to go and celebrate your goals. Go and be pleased that you've scored. Celebrate your teammates, but messages to the fans and stuff. Now's not the time. If you want to tell all of us to that they're wrong, and you want to tell all of us to shush, do it at the end of the season if you're holding up a big silver shiny thing.
No issue with it. If you did it in front of Rangers fans, fair enough, but it didn't bother me. Joshua, yourself?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't know. We don't know. I'm the same with you, Derek. I thought maybe it was the Dundee fans, but Raskin has had a bit of criticism.
Surely he's not thinking about that. Surely he's not thinking about if it was when he scored a great goal like that. I just don't get it.
You'd like to think so, and listen, we're speculating, aren't we? Because we don't know. Yeah, great for the views. The Trimiti one and even the Asgard one. I'm the same with Chris. I think just hold it in. It must be so difficult playing for this club when things aren't going well. But the issue is, it is the players who could change things for this club and make things go a little bit better. So I'm more in agreement with Chris overall that I don't think there's too much of a place for it. It reminds me of Josh Windass shushing the away fans. Thistle. I remember being at that game and thinking, "Oof, that wasn't very clever." But I don't think it was. I don't think it was like that, and maybe a little bit more subjective, to use the word of the day. Incidentally, he's Rangers' biggest set piece threat. I think part of the reason is he goes under the radar because he's quite small and people fall into that trap. But I think he genuinely is Rangers' most dangerous player from set pieces. Even if he's not always scoring directly, he's getting that flick on at the front post, and it set Rangers up yesterday, that set piece. But also, Derek, if you look at the way that set piece was created, they were a bit more direct, they went over the top. And it wasn't all in front of Dundee and comfortable. And I liked that about the first two goals, that there was the nice football played for the second, but also we're happy to turn the Dundee defence. And set pieces defensively continue to be a weakness, but there has been a little bit more invention, I think, in set pieces. You look at Derek Cornelius's runs, and they're trying to change the angle of free kicks a little bit more too. So that's welcome to see a little bit more intuition involved in them.
Yep. Chris is doing my job for me. He says, hit the like button, folks. 117 likes over 1,200 watching. So do as Chris says, folks, and hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well if you aren't a subscriber yet as well. It helps us massively the channel. Just on celebrations, Blue Nose Bob says Gassama was aimed at us. That is his celebration, buddy. You'll have seen when Rangers posted the tweet out when he scored as well. They all get filmed, the players, at the start of the season. So they can post it on their social media when they score a goal. So that is his celebration, nothing to do with having a pop. And John says, Nico has copied Mikey's wee funny hairdo. Yeah, he has. I can't see myself sporting that sort of mullet style. Have you thought about that yourself, Chris? Maybe opting for a new style?
I didn't. Of all the things that I didn't spot yesterday, Nico's hairdo was not. It was on that particular list as well. More chance of Josh going down that road than myself. I think he's got a far fuller barnet than me these days, so he can maybe go down that particular road. I'm sure he'll take the quest from the viewers.
Yeah, been there, Derek.
Fan of the do, Joshua?
Yeah, don't mind it. Don't know if it's me, but don't mind it. Tried a bit of a mullet last year. I'm 26 now. I think I'm a bit old for that. But yeah, never know. Maybe in the summer.
There you go. You'll get kids going into their barbers now asking for a Mikey Moore. So there you go. And people that are yeah, well, people are actually praising your attire, Joshua. Lovely little fetching get up that you've got. David says, Josh looking like the Godfather today with the tash and tank top combo. Yes, and the sniper. This before your time, Joshua says, is Joshua going on big break later? Bring that back. If there are any TV companies or producers watching this, TV has never been the same without the John Virgo and Jim Davidson program. Did you ever watch that growing up, Chris?
Just to say, Josh has not got a clue what you're on about in terms of a big break, has he? I did actually watch it back in the day. Fun bit of trivia for your morning is that my uncle was actually on Big Break back in the day. I can't remember what year, but I'll find out for you and I'll report back. I can't actually remember how he got on. I don't think he won from memory, but he was definitely on. So yeah, we started talking about a fine 3-0 win, and now we're talking about my uncle on Big Break with John Virgo. On a similar theme, managed to get home last night and catch the bullseye, which I was delighted about. So again, Josh clearly straight over his head. He was too busy rewatching the game last night while we were reliving our youth, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely sensational TV program that is sadly missed, unfortunately. The fans yesterday were terrific, as they always are. Well, mostly you've got to say, more often than not. Great Remembrance Day silence beforehand. Fair play to Dundee as well, having the Pipers coming out. We had the Tifo as well, lest we forget, which was fantastic. And the fans throughout the game singing the Danny Rohl song was really great. You can sense that the manager is certainly building those relationships with the supporters. This is incidentally is what he had to say afterwards about those fans that made the trip north.
Yeah, I try always to have a good relationship with our fans. I think I'm respectful of them. They travel to everywhere. I want to see, and I see a lot of togetherness more and more again when I look back. Since I'm here now, I feel really everyone goes more and more in one direction, and it's good. I have a great support from my staff, from my coaches. My players are listening, and if we can bring this together with our fans and we have this togetherness in one direction, then I think we can building up something here.
There you go, Joshua. I didn't mind as well. You've seen when you went up to the fans afterwards, and you see managers do this when they win games these days. Absolutely no issue with that at this point in time. He understands the supporters. We've seen him, of course, helping with the Tifo last Thursday night as well, which is pretty much unheard of. A manager, you mentioned earlier on and down at Sheffield Wednesday, the stuff they used to have to do. He gets it, doesn't he? And no issue with him doing that to the supporters afterwards. Certainly after you win a game, celebrate how you want.
Yeah, when he started doing it, I thought, what's he doing here? And I thought, how will the Rangers away support don't always strike me as the kind of fist pumping type from a manager, but the downside there, building a good relationship is so important, Derek, because when you don't have a good afternoon, when you don't have a good afternoon, you can get through it because people see your point of view, being likable, and he knows what he's doing because he's been in a club who have been in difficult situations before. And as we said yesterday, I think he's played the role of not being Russell Martin well, and there's just a reality to that when someone's been unpopular before you, if you do things that they didn't do, and if you do them simply, then people are going to be desperate to get behind you. And there's often obviously a bit of a relatability that fans feel because I think he's not that flashy, and he speaks well without speaking very well, if I can use a football cliche, Derek, because I think Rangers fans are probably tired of managers speaking very well or managers telling them what they're not seeing. So I think what Danny Rohl's doing well so far is communicating and being quite authentic, but also not talking things up too much and talking himself into a bit of trouble. So that relationship is absolutely vital, and Chris was there. he'll been a bit more privy to it than me. But it's been quite a while, I think, since you've seen that type of bond between an away fans and the dugout. And obviously, it's a little bit strange in some senses because Rohl's only won a few games. But I think you can see that people are really willing to get behind him, and that is really important and could be the start of something in a way that we saw at the start of the season. It was always going to be very difficult to make that happen with Russell Martin.
I think he's played the PR game really well, but not in a cynical sense, not in a sense of I'm going to say things just to try and butter you a lot up. I think that's just the way that he is. He clearly values that relationship, as Derek mentioned there, and going out his way to help with the tifo last Wednesday ahead of the Roma game. Even going over to the away fans in Bergen, I think that was a really impressive and a really smart thing to do early on. A difficult night for him, bad 90 minutes, bad performance and result. But in that moment, he was switched on and he realised that the good that could come of it, speaking to the fans at the airport on the way home, obviously after they had another go at Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. So I think there's been a lot of wee incidents, if you like, that may look small, may seem insignificant, but they all add up into a big picture of the fans really taking to him. And for a guy with a 50% win record to have that reaction says a lot about how quickly the fans have taken to him. I think there's also been positives and a wee bit of progression in terms of the performances. Results have picked up, certainly Premiership terms, but the fans have really got behind Danny Rohl, and that can take you a long, long way. We saw the opposite side of that at the start of the season. Even if Russell Martin had won 6 out of 6, people still wouldn't have taken to him.
Yeah,
they didn't like him. They didn't like the idea of him as Rangers head coach. Danny Rohl, very different record, but people like the idea of him. They are buying into him. And as John says there, I thought the celebration at the end, it was a very German way of celebrating, if you like. You see that in the Bundesliga a lot. The managers are really big on that kind of celebration, that kind of rapport. And I said, nice to see that the Rangers fans actually buying into him. For a long, long time since you've seen a manager get off to that kind of start where he's got that relationship so early on. It buys him time. So if another couple of results perhaps don't go his way, he's already got a lot of credit in the bank.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing, a lot more of that before the end of the season. Big thank you to Skydive66. He's very kindly donated 5 Rangers Review memberships. I think you've already taken those up. So thank you very much for your generosity. And speaking about the Rangers Review Extra, we'll be recording a Q&A at the normal time today, folks, at 1 o'clock this afternoon. I'll pop the request out for questions on the community page on YouTube a little bit later on. So get your questions in. We'll get through as many as we possibly can. Right, a big thank you to you all for tuning in. Big thank you to Joshua and to Chris as ever. And I think there's an embargoed presser on 12 noon. Chris, is there?
Mikey Moore is interview out at 12. So those of you who prefer it in a written form, it'll be on the website at 12, and you can of course catch it on the YouTube channel as well. So go and check that out as he discusses his goal yesterday, overall performances, and where this side are under Danny Rohl.
Jolly good. Right, folks, if we don't speak to you later, then enjoy your Monday, whatever you are doing, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.